So like besides you already said being a good teammate and working hard, like skill wise, how do you think like players can stand out on the court? Like Hi everyone, welcome back to our Volleyball 101. I'm Mari Silva, a full-time coach here at NVVA, and today we're going to talk about a really important step for volleyball players out there. I'm sure many athletes get anxious when tryouts are coming up and they need to prepare themselves if they want to make it to their varsity or club teams. So today I invited a very successful club and high school athlete to help us with this topic today. Her name is Katie Friesen. Katie is from Manitoba, Canada, and she's a former college player. She played both indoor and beach volleyball at FIU, and we are actually teammates. We played together for the 2017 and 2018 seasons, and we made it to the national championship in 2018. Katie dominated her club and high school career back in Canada. She's won 2 Canadian club national championships, 5 provincial club championships, 5 high school championships, and 4 beach provincial championships. Katie graduated last year from FIU, and I'm sure she's really pumped to be here today with us and to talk more about her high school and club career and share some of her experiences with you guys here. So stay tuned, and I hope you guys enjoy this exciting talk with Katie Friesen today. All right. Hi, Katie. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Mari. How are you?
I'm doing good. How's everything in Canada right now?
Canada's good. The weather was nice, but now it's getting cold again. So I gotta bundle up.
Tell us what your nice means, because I think we have a different, different idea of what is nice, weather-wise.
Okay. Right now, it's 10 degrees Celsius, which is, I think, like 48 Fahrenheit.
That's not too bad.
Like, not terrible, but it was getting like really nice, like 15 Celsius, 20 Celsius, which I think is.
That is nice. Yeah, I saw that a couple of weeks ago. You showed on Instagram that it was snowing.
Yeah. No, when I first came back, it snowed. So I came from Miami to Canada where it was snowing. I was like,
yeah, 10 degrees Celsius is nice, actually. I'm going to give you that.
Yeah. It's not bad. I'm surviving. No problem.
I bet.
How are things with you?
Pretty good. Just getting ready to get back out there and play volleyball again. We were super excited to be back.
Yeah, I bet.
All right, Katie, so let's talk volleyball here. So just give us like a quick background of your successful high school and club career. How did you start? Like what club did you play in Canada? Just a quick background about yourself.
Yeah, so I had older siblings and they played volleyball. So as a kid, I was at every single volleyball tournament with my own volleyball playing all the time. But I actually started club officially when I was in grade 5. And then I started high school when I was in grade 7. So I've been playing indoor volleyball my whole entire year, all my high school years since grade 5. I played for a club called Shock. In 14U, we won the Canadian Nationals, which was an amazing experience. And then when I was 17, I played up on an 18U team. And that tournament we had won. I was playing for Cobras, and we won 18U Nationals. And actually that year I got selected for MVP. So as a 17U, I got selected as MVP at 18U Canadian Nationals. So that was probably like the highlight of my high school career on the club front. In high school provincials, we had won a couple of times. Don't know the number off the top of my head, but it was good. So high school was great. I went on to play at Florida International University. My love at that point was beach volleyball and not as much indoor. So my first year I played indoor volleyball. I set for them. I was a starting setter. And then I switched to playing just full beach for the next 3 years. So yeah, it was an amazing experience. I loved college. I learned a lot. And I was surrounded by really good players in college as well. So it was good. Volleyball was
I'm gonna confess something here.
time.
Katie and I, we were partners for a few times playing beach, and her sets were just amazing. Like, I felt bad when I missed a hit because her sets were so good. I was like, Katie, I'm so sorry that I missed that hit. I should never have missed any hit from balls that come from you.
Buddy, I remember playing, and your attacks, like, you scored so much, and it was like it was the coolest attacks. Like, they always somehow scored and found the court. That was fun. I love playing with you, Buddy.
Yeah, the sets coming from you were easy to score. Yeah, Katie, so like, you were really successful in high school. I didn't even know how many championships I had won back in Canada. So just like between US and Canada, are there any difference between like club and high school seasons, or is pretty much similar?
I'm not exactly sure in terms of difference. Are you talking in terms of the style of play or in terms of seasons?
Like season, like high school season being the fall and then club season the spring, kind of similar.
Yeah, that's how it works in Canada. Mm-hmm. So high school's in the fall. Which, note to anyone listening, like, high school, to me, I thought was the most funnest time to play volleyball because it's not really your job. It's, you can play with your friends. And in my case, like, people supported our high school games. So high school ball was was in the fall, and then club volleyball was in the spring. But just small note, make sure you're enjoying the ride right now, in the phase of your life you're in. Continue. Yes, it is the same.
Awesome. So how did you get in your club and high school teams? Like, did you have tryouts? How was the process to be part of the teams?
Yeah. So in high school, we always had our tryouts kind of in August. And then for club, our tryouts were always in January. So yeah. And the tryouts were open for all of the clubs and high schools that I went to. Like, it wasn't like you got selected. I know some clubs did that, but ours was always open tryouts for anyone.
Mm-hmm. And then based on your performance on the tryout, you would go to a like maybe varsity and then junior varsity, or how did that work? The process?
Yeah, based on in the case of high school, well, that's true. In the case of high school, like, you'd only try out for a JV team or you'd only try out for a varsity team. In the case of club, it was like you were trying out for a certain age group. You were trying out for a certain team. So if you made the team, right, you were selected to the team. That's kind of how it went in Canada.
And you always made it to the best team because you won many championships, right?
I had really good coaches. I can't speak enough about how good my coaches were. Just probably like you, buddy.
I don't know about that. I wasn't as talented as you were.
Nah, buddy, you were insane. You were the most athletic person, I swear. We're playing darts. You kick everyone at darts. Any type of game we picked up, buddy would just beat everyone at. So you're athletic, man.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, during tryouts, did you ever fail any tryouts, or did you not make the team that you wanted to? How was your any experience that you can share with us here?
No, I think in tryouts, right, you're always nervous because you obviously you're trying out for the team because you want to make it. So it's definitely like the process within the tryout. Our tryouts were usually, I would say, like 3 or 4 days, maybe 2 or 3 tryouts. I'm not sure. But it was kind of like the process. I don't know, you made a mistake during the tryouts or you thought you'd had a bad day. It was like the next day coming back and kind of revamping your mental and trying to get back at it, right? To perform your best.
So maybe like your tryouts, you kind of had the time to come back if you had a bad day, because you said it was a 3 or 4 days. So maybe you didn't have a great first day, and then you had a chance to come back the next day and get better.
Yeah, exactly. And from my experiences, at least with the coaches I've had, obviously they're assessing skill, and they were assessing. But more than that, I think if a coach is a really good coach, right, they can take any player that has the right attitude and turn them into an amazing player. So I know what the coaches that I was trying out for, typically they were looking for the attitude, and not necessarily for sure just the skill, right? Because if you take a player with a good attitude that's here versus a player with a bad attitude that's like in front of them here, right? Eventually a good coach can bring this player with a great attitude higher and higher, right? Till they surpass the one with the better skill. So it's like, over the course of your tryouts, for me, it was always like, make sure I show that I work really hard, make sure that I show that I'm very coachable. Like if the coaches ever told me something, I wanted to exaggerate what they told me so that they saw that I was listening and taking their feedback. And then the other thing is to like make sure you're a team player, right? Make sure you're always kind of helping the other people and uplifting your teammates or whoever, even though you're competing against them in tryouts. You always want to make sure that you are a very positive and leader-like player. So in terms of if you had a bad tryout skills-wise, or you thought you didn't pass as good or hit as well, to me, and again, I'm not sure how all coaches operate, but to me, it's more so you're looking for the attitude of the player and not as much their skill.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like you're kind of getting ahead of me. Like that was going to be like my next question, but I think that's awesome. I was going to ask how like you can stand out during a tryout, but I completely agree with you. I think, I mean, we all can have the skills to play the sport, but it's hard to find a good athlete and a good teammate. And like speaking as a coach now, I completely agree with you. I think if I have two players that are kind of similar in skills, and I'm always going to go to the one that were more coachable and a good teammate and had a good sportsmanship and everything. So I think besides like volleyball skills, I think that's something really important that can make you stand out between the crowd, like being a good teammate and a good athlete and working hard and all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what I would say. It's just more about kind of showing your character. Mm-hmm. And I would say that's what your main focus should be on the tryout.
Yeah. I usually say that it's easy to find good players out there, but it's really hard to find like good athletes and good teammates, because it's easy to know how to play the sport, but it's hard because there's so much more involved in the sport than just playing the game. So I think it's really hard to find those players, especially at a young age.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm thinking back to my experiences, the teams where we had success, on the teams that we won nationals, I wouldn't say that we had the best talent or the best skill in terms of the best athleticism, but we had the best team for sure. The team was first and it wasn't the individual. And I think that was kind of a common thread. So, and I often find it's really rare. Typically it's never the team that has the best skill or the most athletic. My grade 12 year, our high school, like our team was stacked. Like we had all the best players in the province, and that year we lost provincials. And I think just to make the point is like we weren't really a good team. There are too many good players, and we were all kind of putting our individual needs ahead of the team. And we didn't win that year, so it's just kind of my experiences.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I've seen a lot of great teams that could never be successful because they just didn't have that chemistry on the court, and they couldn't work together. They couldn't figure out how to make their talents like work together. So I think that's a really good example. And I'm even gonna use my experience here as a soccer player. You know that I play soccer, and like during like a soccer tryout, I've participated in many soccer tryouts. You can kind of, let's say, like be selfish and like keep the ball to yourself and try to show off. And that's how maybe you can show the coach that you're a good player. But in volleyball, it's different because you can only touch the ball once. You can't really carry the ball with you during the game. So you're going to pass, you're going to hit, you're going to set, whatever, but you can't carry the ball with you like you could in soccer. So like besides, you already said being a good teammate and working hard, like skill-wise, how do you think like players can stand out on the court, like skill-wise, because you're only touching the ball one time during the play. So I think it's a little bit harder to think about to stand out.
On a skill level, I think it's about completely focusing on that one task that you have in that one moment, right? So if you're on service eve, make sure you're thinking about nothing else except to getting the pass to go perfectly to the setter, right? Vice versa, if you're the setter, it's about like really focusing on every single touch. And if you focus on every single touch, eventually the results will just take care of itself. So I think to some extent, it's just being completely focused and present in the moment, right? And focusing on the task at hand. And then to be honest with you, like the skills, like that comes from before the tryout, if you really want to make this team, right, and you're not sure if your skills are good enough, well then, I mean, like a month before, a bunch of 2 months, 3 months before, right? Like put in extra reps, right? And figure out where you're weak on and make sure you're practicing those skills. So in terms of by the time you get to the tryouts, it's like the skills that you have are the skills that you have, right? If you're not happy with the skills, then maybe you should put in some more work before. But now you're at the tryout and you have your skills. So now it's about calming your nerves. It's about handling your nerves and then showing the coach your character. And so I think if you can do those two things, right, that's going to help you stand out in tryouts. In terms of how you can show your character, I think it's just like making sure that you're aware of if other people are struggling, you be the one to go there and give them the extra high five or kind of bring them up and try to raise them up as a teammate. And then always blame yourself, like never blame someone else for your mistakes. And I think that's something that especially young players often like to blame other people, or actually not young players, all players,
everybody.
Everyone does it. Everyone blames other people, but I think the best players are the players that never blame anyone else, and they always take accountability for their own mistakes or actions.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I agree. Especially like volleyball is a game of mistakes. Like you never score a point. Like you score a point because someone else made a mistake. So I think it's important to own your mistakes. So you see a lot of times, especially with setters, like you hit the ball out and then you blame the setter. And you were a setter, so I know that happens a lot. We were both setters. Every time someone makes a mistake, they look at the setter like, it's your fault, but it's not. We know that it's not. So. Yeah, again, that's something really important too, because the coaches, we think that as players, we think that coaches don't see what goes on in the court, but they do. They can see, they can see our body language. They can see if we're complaining about something and things like that. So I think especially in a tryout, it's really important to, again, as to say, stay focused and own your mistakes and not blame anybody else. Be a good teammate and try to stand out that way.
Oh, sorry, Bobby.
No, go for it.
Going back to when you said about the setting thing, it reminded me, like, hands down, the best hitters that I've played with, they never blame the setter. And the way I see it is, like, if you're a hitter and you can put away a perfect set, great. Everyone can do that, right? To me, the best hitters are the ones that get points off of the bad sets. So in terms of you, if you want to be the best hitter, then you should make it your own personal pride or ego, or make sure that even if it's a bad set, you can do something with it. And then never blame your setter, never blame anyone else. Right? And those are really, to me, those are the actual good hitters. And to be honest, Maddie, I was a hitter for most of my high school career. I was a hitter, and I was only a setter for the last 2 years. So I kind of had both sides of the coin there.
Were you one of the players who blamed the setter, or no?
No,
you were nice to them.
When I was younger, no, I was probably harder on myself than I actually should have been. But no, I never really blamed my setter.
No, Katie's the perfect Canadian. She's really nice. I'm sure she'll never blame anyone else for her mistakes. But yeah, so one again, we already talked about like making mistakes and failing. So one really important thing about tryouts, like my case, for example, I think I failed so many tryouts before succeeding in one, like both in volleyball and soccer or whatever else I was doing. So speaking for yourself, how do you deal with failures? Like if you fail, even like a tryout or even like losing a game or things like that, what are some things that maybe like you do to recover from a failure and, helping yourself to stay up and try again?
Yeah, I think this was probably more applicable to me in college, because I think I had a different mindset in high school. And I remember it was hard. Like it's hard when you fail sometimes and it gets into your head. It's a hard thing to overcome. I would say everyone needs to figure out their own methods of coping with it. A couple that worked for me was if you zoom out, right? Like zoom way out and you think about like how small you are in this entire universe, how this tiny point in time, like realistically, no one's going to remember it. Like no one's going to remember your tryout at 14U volleyball, and you're not going to remember your tryout at 14U volleyball. So if you can keep that in mind, that it's just, this really doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. It almost gives you the freedom to just go and enjoy the moment. So that helped me a lot if I failed, right? Because at the end of the day, it was like the failures that I had, like in the big scheme of things, who cares? They don't really matter. The other thing that helped me a lot was visualization and breathing. So if you are ever feeling really nervous and you have an immediate next action to do, it's like let out a little breath or just kind of breathe in, up and down, slow your breathing. I think there's actually like medical studies that, I don't know, whatever. That helped a lot, is to focus on your breathing and to visualize. And then the last thing that also really helped me was if I was really struggling or something, I would pick one of my favorite players. And for beach, it was Misty May and Sarah Hughes. So if I was struggling, like I would pretend that it's kind of embarrassing, but I would pretend I was Sarah Hughes or Misty May. And I was thinking in my mind, I was like, oh, like Misty May wouldn't do that, or Sarah Hughes wouldn't do that, right? And because I had almost like pretended I was them in my mind, I played better, right? Because it was like Misty May wouldn't make that mistake, or she wouldn't be scared to take that swing. So I don't really have a perfect answer. I think it more just comes down to figure out what works for you and keep trying. Like if you try something and if it doesn't work for you, like for some people that may work, for some people it doesn't, but don't keep trying the same thing over and over and over again if it's not working, right? Einstein said that is like insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yeah, no,
so
I
kind of
agree.
Figure out what player you are, figure out what works for you. And I just think visualizing is pretty powerful as well, and just being easy on yourself a little bit.
No, I agree. I think different things work for different people. But I think it's a really good example that you use with like visualizing other players, because like if you're watching those professional players, like they're usually their body language is just so amazing that if you try to copy them, like I want to be just like them, so it'd be like that player wouldn't do that, so I should try to be like them because they're successful. Like she won 3 gold medal Olympics, so I think whatever she's doing is working, right? So maybe if I try to be like her, it might work for me too. So
I found it got me out of my own head, right? Because I wasn't like, if I was so concerned, I was like nervous or whatever, and then I was thinking, no, I'm Misty May, like
I'm Misty May.
Like, hit the ball, I'm Misty May now. So it helped me. That was one method that had helped me. So.
No, that's really good. And like you say that you kind of had to cope more with failures in college than high school. What was the difference between the teenager Katie and the college athlete Katie? What was the difference there?
Mari, I'm still trying to figure that out. Shelda was our assistant coach at FIU Beach Volleyball, and she was the Brazilian, one of the best players in Brazil. Yeah. And I remember, like, in the team meeting, Shelda was saying, oh, you just do it. Like, pretty much just saying, Shelda was so mentally strong that nothing really kind of fazed her. That was the player I would say, up until grade 10 or 11. And then I'm not sure exactly what happened. Maybe my ego got involved. Maybe I started wanting to play because I liked attention rather than actually wanting to play to improve. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened, but at some point, the pressure kind of flipped. Like there was kind of maybe more politics involved, but I think I just forgot that just to enjoy the moment and just to play the game because I love to play. And it's kind of cliche and like people say it all the time. But I think there's just too much outside noise surrounding factors, and I just couldn't like stay in the moment and just enjoy the game that I always love to play. So I don't know if it's a really great answer, and I'm probably still trying to figure it out. But and I think the other thing is too, when you go to college or when you go, like in my world, whatever, like in high school and stuff, like if you rise to the top, right, you're the best in that, right? But then when you go to college, you start at the bottom again.
You're
right?
just one more
at some point. Now you're back, and it's like you kind of get used to like being like whatever. If you make a mistake, maybe you have more leniency because you've already proven your track record of credibility, right? And so maybe it was just I wasn't used to that again. I'm not sure, and it's kind of. But I would say in college, I was probably too hard on myself. Like if you make a mistake, instead of letting it go and like focusing on the next, I would dwell on the mistake too long, and I don't think I did that as much in high school.
So you're saying that Katie in high school were maybe wiser than Katie in college?
I don't know. I think maybe Katie in high school didn't fail as much as Katie in college, but I think Katie after college is a lot wiser than Katie pre-college. So I think you have to go through a lot of failure to learn and to develop more. So I think that like going through the failure actually was probably one of the best things that happened to me, right? Because you learn and there's so many lessons you can learn applicable from sports. So.
No, yeah, I agree. There's so many quotes about failures that I love. Like there's a song by Aerosmith Smith that he says, "You gotta lose to know how to win." Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people say that
Very true.
you either win or you learn. Like you never lose. You know, every time you lose, you're learning something. Yeah. So there's always like I have so many quotes here that I could stay all day long here talking about them. But I think
with that quote though, I would say like either win or you learn. And that's only, I think, that if you take the losing to learn. And I think that was maybe my mistake in college is I just took the losing as losing instead of a learning opportunity, right? So it's like instead of beating yourself up about that loss, right? Rather, let's take apart the technical part of it. Let's take apart what actually went wrong and then focusing on fixing it. Rather, like, so instead of focusing on your circle of concern, like the game's over, you lost, whatever. Let's focus on circle of influence, meaning what could I have done in that part
to change that.
Exactly. And so if you put the intentional effort to learn from your losses, then I think losses are great. If you're just dwelling on them, I think that it's not good for you. So.
No, yeah, I agree. I think in my case, I think I kind of dealt with failures the same way. The difference is that when I was younger, I think I didn't think as much. So I would react with like my emotions, so with my heart, which, you know, a lot of times when we act with our hearts, it's just not the best option. So I think after I was older and maybe like in college, I would deal with failure the same way, but now instead of, you know, being really emotional, I was just think about it before. So just what you say, like thinking about what could I have done to change or something, to not make the same mistakes over and over again. So I think that was the difference between my young self and, you know, my older self. Just stop acting with my heart and just like start thinking more before doing something. I think that was the main difference.
The wise mighty.
The wise mighty, yeah. After
the wise. Well, I mean, you're a pro athlete, man. Like, so you did it, man.
Well, kind of. A long time ago. Yeah, but I mean, I was really young when if you guys don't know, I used to play soccer back in Brazil at a high level. So, but I was still younger. So I think I was making the same mistakes, you know, like acting with my heart instead of being like smarter about it and thinking about a better solution for the loss or whatever problem was going on. So I think that was the difference between my young self.
Oh.
Yeah. So let's go here. Let's see. So, like, personally, how did you prepare yourself for a tryout? I think we already kind of talked about it, but like skill-wise, like you said, you maybe had some coach helping you, doing extra reps. Like, what do you think that players can do out there to prepare themselves for tryouts?
Like I said, skill-wise, like all that work is months in advance, right? So when you come to the tryout, the skills you have are the skills you have. That's not going to change. Now, the months in advance, I can tell you what I did. Again, I grew up in Canada. It's cold outside all the time. So literally, I remember like when I was 13, 14, I had really good coaches and they taught me really good technique. So I would go to the gym, they'd teach me technique, and like I would come home in the evenings or whenever I was at home, I would like set inside my house like for hours on end. Like I was just setting inside my house, bumping inside my house. So I did that for hours on end just in all my free time. And I like played volleyball against the wall by myself for like far too many hours, like for a lot of hours. So I was always touching the ball as much as I could and trying to get my technique better. I remember sitting in class because the coach had told me to focus on my hand position. And I remember sitting in class in grade 7, just like focusing on keeping my wrist back for when I was setting, just because I was very fanatical about it. So that's how I did it for skills. Like I was just touching the ball and trying to improve in any way possible. In terms of the actual tryouts when it came, it was just about figuring out maybe calming my nerves. And I don't know, maybe when I was in high school, I don't know if I thought about it as much as I did in college. But yeah, I think it's just about trying to harness your nerves, and nerves are a good thing, right? Because nerves mean you care to some extent, right?
Yep.
And then it's just about accepting it. Like, yeah, everyone has nerves. It's okay. No worries. But just focus on playing, right? Focus on the immediate action that's in front of you. Visualizing, breathing, again, all the kind of those techniques we talked about before. Yeah.
No, that's really good that you talked about like doing reps against the wall, because right now that's a situation we have. Like nobody can play, nobody can go to to the gym and play. So that's all we have right now. So, and hopefully high school season is around the corner. We still don't know if it's going to happen or not. But if it does, are you just sitting on the couch and not doing anything, or are you waking up every day and doing 1,000 reps against the wall? Because right now that's all we could do. And again, you said that even before, when you had the gym or had coaches to do it, you still would go home by yourself and do 1,000 reps. So I think that's always a good option for us, especially now that we don't really have many options. We can always figure something out. If you really want something, you can figure something out and work by yourself, or I don't know, your parents, your siblings, someone can help you. And if you really want something, there's no excuses for you. You can just come up with something and always keep working on yourself, whatever it is that you have to work on. I think you can always find a solution to work on yourself.
Yeah, I think that's super, super true. And it's true in life too. Like, you always see success, right? In anything, right? You see this person that's super successful. And what everyone forgets is the amount of time, energy, and effort it took to get to that success. And I think that's especially true in sports. Like, everyone sees all these amazing athletes, but no, that started 10 years ago. That the tryout date, like I said, the tryout date, that's your skills you have. But I mean, you had 3 months, 4 months to prepare for that tryout, and you had time, right? So if you want to be the best player, and if you really want to make this team, there's always stuff you can do, but you got to prep yourself and you got to put in the work before. And there's stuff you can do, like Mari was saying. Like, you can always improve.
You can always do anything. Yeah, and then you're just talking about like professional players who have been successful, but if you think about them, like, I'm sure like 99% of them have failed at least one tryout in their lives when they were younger. We can even see like Michael Jordan now. We're seeing his documentary like on TV. Yeah, and he was a junior in college and a junior in high school, and I think he didn't make to the varsity team. So like the best athletes in the world have failed something when they were younger, and that was never an excuse for them to not try again or to give up. They just kept going. I'm sure like everybody has some kind of story where they failed and they had to get up and try again.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely had my fair share.
Right. So that was great. So now let's maybe go over like things that maybe you shouldn't do during a tryout. Do you have any tips there that like, don't do this because it's not going to help you at all? Even like on or off the court, for example, especially nowadays, like everybody has their phones with them and, doing TikToks, like that's something like, don't do, please. Like once you step in the gym, just leave your phone on your bag, and the coach doesn't want to see you messing with your phone when they're talking. So that's just an example. If you have any other thing that you can tell us, things that you shouldn't do.
Let me explain. My coaches when I was in high school, they were very, very old school, and so they were very, very, very much about discipline. So like, for example, if you were yawning in a huddle, everyone was doing sprints. You were late to practice if you weren't there 10 minutes early with your shoes on doing spike approaches before practice. So if you were 5 minutes early, you were late. Things like if you weren't looking at the coach, if you weren't answering at the coach, we were running or doing push-ups, or like it was a very, very, very disciplined team. And I think that as a coach, like some of the best players are very disciplined. So I think you want to show your discipline. Like if the coach is talking, make sure you're looking at them, make sure you're not talking to your friend, make sure your phone's out. Like when you're in the gym, you want to have your full focus on what you're doing at hand. Multitasking is a myth. Like you can't multitask. You need to be 100% focused on what you're doing. The other thing is, again, make sure you're a good teammate and a good player to other people. Like you never want to be the player in a tryout yelling at another player or getting mad at another player. that's definitely nothing you don't want to do. And then things like shagging balls, like make sure you're hustling the whole practice. Like don't slack off at any point in practice. And yeah, just make sure you're there and giving your full effort and full attention the whole time.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like even like those really small details that you think doesn't matter or the coaches are not watching. For example, if you're, let's say you're doing a suicide and instead of touching the line, you're just like halfway there, you don't touch the line. You know, coaches can see that and you think it's not important, but it is, because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to play. You're going to not almost touch the line during a suicide or whatever. That's what you're going to do during a game. You're almost going to swing. You're not going to go 100%. So I think that's something that, you know, players, this doesn't matter the age. Like you see older players doing the same thing, like pretending they're doing it, but they're not. Do it 10 reps and they're doing just 7, 8, 9.5. So I think those are like really small details that you think don't matter. But at the end of the day, like it's going to matter when you're playing. It's going to make a huge difference for you and for your team as well.
Yeah. And like you practice like you play, right? So if you're halving it, you're gonna play half of it, you know. So no, you're so right. So right.
I think another thing to do during a tryout is maybe like be open to play multiple positions. Maybe like you come to a tryout thinking that you're a right side and you only play right side, and your coach asks you to maybe go to the outside or play back row, and you're like, no, I can't do that. I don't know how to do it. Just be open to do whatever your coach asks you to do, because, you know, that's going to show him or her that you're engaged and you're open to help your team in whatever position you can play on the court.
Yeah, for sure. It just benefits you, like, as well. Like, if you're at this point in your career too, like, if you think you're one thing, I don't know, maybe you'll hit like a growth spurt and all of a sudden you should be a middle blocker, right? So just be open to whatever and just focus. Every different position will enhance your skills. So yeah, definitely you want to show the coach that you're coachable and that you'll do what's best for the team, right? Coaches always want to see players who will put the team ahead of themselves.
No, yeah, I completely agree. As a coach, I completely agree. That's what I'm looking for. As a coach.
Hint for all you guys going to tryouts. That's what you're looking for.
If you're trying out for the VVA, that's what we're looking for. No, Katie, thank you so much for being here today. I think it was awesome. Like, you gave amazing tips for players out there. Before we close, so when I invited Katie to be here today to talk about, you know, her volleyball career, she told me that, you know, during this downtime that, you know, Corona has given us, she's taking the time to maybe think about all the volleyball lessons that she's learned during her career. So just before we close here, Katie, you want to just share some of your experience, some of your lessons that you carry with you today?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I did. It's crazy. In life, I've seen so much how the lessons I learned from volleyball has benefited everything. And I see it in my job right now. I see all the lessons I learned coming together. A couple of them we touched on, like accountability. You never want to blame anyone or anything else for your outcome. So true in life, right? You always have the power to make your own situation. The other thing that we kind of also touched on was the success doesn't come overnight. The success comes from the years and years of practice of it. So if you want to be a success, you have to know that that is sacrifice. And if you're not sacrificing, to be honest with you, you won't be successful. You have to sacrifice something. You have to put in the effort and the reps before. So we also talked about that. And then I think I have a lot of things that I learned from them. But the last thing is like, if you fail to prepare, be prepared to fail. That was a quote that my coach had given me. And it's the same thing, right? As we were saying before, like if you're just not preparing for anything, you gotta be prepared that you're gonna fail. Like the work comes prior months before. And you're in your high school careers now, right? So like ideally, I assume if you guys want to go on to play college, like right now is the time that you're putting in the hard work to get there. And if you don't want to go to college, you just want to play, like, again, if you want to be successful, the work comes every day in practice with like a huge intent of getting better and making sure that every single ball you touch is the best touch that you could have possibly done. So those are a couple of things I have lots more, but I won't bore you on them.
No, that's awesome. I think I said everything. I think I would just say the exact same thing that you just said. That again, I love quotes. I have many other quotes about that. I have one that says, "To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift." So if you come in and that's a good one, right?
Good. That's a good one.
So yeah, if you come in and you don't give your best, it's not worth it. Like, why are you here if you're not giving your best? So not only in volleyball, we're talking about life right now. Anything you're doing, if you're doing halfway, it's just not worth it. You're wasting your time and everybody else's time that's around you. So I think it's always important to, whatever you're doing, just do your best, and don't take it for granted. Especially like now, we can talk about taking things for granted. Like everybody's talking about how much they miss volleyball or whatever else they were doing with their lives, and now they can't because they physically can't. They have to stay home. So never take whatever you're doing for granted, because one day it's gonna be over, and all we have with us is the memories and the lessons we've learned with our careers, right, Katie?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And the friends, right?
And the friends, yeah.
I'm so happy, right? Through volleyball, that's how I met Maddie, and like a lifelong friend, right? So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Katie. I hope everybody enjoyed our talk today. I hope everybody had as much fun as we did, because we had a lot of fun here today.
Yeah, let's hope. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Maddie.